Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with another video. This is going to be an in-depth look at the quarter-finals of the CSGO Major in London being run by FACEIT. And of course, it is produced in partnership with Rivalry.gg. If you like the content and you want to support the channel, head on over to Rivalry.gg/RLS, where you will qualify for up to $350 of special bonuses. And of course, you will also let them know that you've come right from here in this channel. So look, let's talk about it. We've got the quarterfinals lined up. I'm just going to look at those rather than sort of extrapolate what might happen for the rest of the tournament, because obviously if one of my predictions are wrong, the whole kind of thing falls down. So we'll start by talking about Big versus Na'Vi. Now, Na'Vi have been in an incredible run of form lately, all things considered. They've been winning tournaments. I didn't think it was possible. They're the second-ranked team in the world now, according to HLTV, and they have been something of a personal nemesis for Big. Before they picked up Smooya, for example, way back in E-League, they 16-1 them, pretty much humiliating them on stage. And then, of course, most importantly, at the best of five finals that Big had the miracle run to at ESL 1 Cologne. They beat them 3-1. And during that, they lost Overpass, they lost Train, and they lost Inferno. But they were able to win Dust 2. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm actually predicting Big to win this. I think having had those defeats with the Smooya lineup, having lots of demos, lots of information to work with, this is God B's wheelhouse. This is what he does for a living. There is no better anti-strata in the game, in my opinion. That includes your existences, that includes your MSLs. I think God B understands the game on a much higher level than pretty much any active IGL right now. And in terms of disseminating information from demos, I think God B does it better than almost anyone else, if not the best. So having those maps to work with, going back to ESL 1 Cologne, I think actually gives them a slight advantage. But in Na'Vi's favor, Big's best map in terms of win rate is DE Cash, and that's Na'Vi's permanent ban. So immediately one of the win conditions is being taken away from Big. Yes, I get that. But what I'll also add is that Na'Vi have yet to win a competitive match on Dust 2, which is Big's next best map, and the one that they beat them on in Cologne in that 3-1 final. Now, if you look at Mirage, Overpass, and Train, just win percentages over the last 3 months, they all heavily favor Na'Vi. And the best bet that you could hope to get it on for a decider would be Nuke or Inferno, which would set up a sort of barnstorming grand finale. I will also add anecdotally, I do not think the Na'Vi train can keep going at full speed ahead. There have been lots of personal problems, as we know, coming in. There was this weird situation with Flamey. Is he going to leave? Then they were practicing the stand-ins. Then he came back into the team. And you all saw the argument that happened between what looked to be Edward and Simple during the stage. Edward having a terrible level of performance here at the Major. I think Big are going to do a number here. I think they're going to upset everybody. I think as hard as it is to neutralize Simple and Electronic, I think they're going to do just enough. And I've got a 2-1 shock win for Big. Yes, I said it. Next up is Complexity versus Made in Brazil. This one, for me, is the hardest series to call, in my opinion, one way or the other. I'm really torn and conflicted on it. I was crunching the numbers all day before I decided to sit down and record this video. And I'm going to edge towards Complexity, and I'm going to tell you why. Now, we don't really know too much about Complexity in terms of big matches, but we do know that they're a real threat on Cash, Mirage, Inferno, and Dust 2. They've been incredibly potent on those maps at this very major. Nobody saw Complexity going 3-0, but also in their online games, just in general, these are the maps that this team excel at. Any other map that they play, it's pretty awful for them. The results aren't good, and you can see that they like to ban Overpass. It's not really a map that they're going to play. Now, Made in Brazil, on the other hand, have this hard ban of Nuke. They just refuse to play it, and their two most picked maps here at the Major have been Cash and Inferno, which are coincidentally Complexity's two best maps in terms of win rate. So for me, this actually gives Complexity a real chance of getting both of their best maps as the first two in a best of three. If you also factor in this ridiculous result that happened, Astralis beating Made in Brazil 16-0 on Dust 2, the first 16-0 in major history, now you have this new psychological component. Are Complexity going to pick Dust 2? Are Made in Brazil toying with the idea of banning Dust 2? They've been absolutely spanked on it. They're clearly not ready. So this now creates this interesting dynamic to how the veto might go. I think Complexity have already gone far beyond expectations for the tournament. They're playing without fear. They have this confidence. Stanislaw has been just incredibly well, playing incredibly well in terms of his performance, but also what he's delivering as an in-game leader. And I just wonder if this might be coming round a little bit too soon for Made in Brazil. They seem to be galvanizing, but unfortunately, this kind of overlapping map pool, all these mitigating factors, it's a weird one because my head is actually telling me Complexity. My heart says Made in Brazil. I really want that team to click. I think it could be one of the most exciting teams in World Counter-Strike, but I think Complexity are going to knock them out of the major. So maybe I'll have egg on my face, but I've got another shock result for the underdog there. Probably it's 2-1, but certainly Complexity are going to dominate the maps that they excel on, I think, when they play them. Next up, this is the easiest. Team Liquid versus Hellraisers. Liquid have really surprised me in terms of how good they actually have been. Sure, they're a great team, but they were vulnerable online. They were vulnerable at LANs. They looked vulnerable at E-League. I didn't really see what all the fuss was about for, it seems, years now. Everyone's been talking about how Team Liquid have finally got it right, finally found the missing piece of the jigsaw, finally have the roster that's going to propel them to big trophies, and then nothing. It just doesn't happen. But this time, it looks like it is happening. They went undefeated, and crucially, they managed to unchoke. We've talked about Liquid having these choking problems, and again, this goes back for years. But while they were in the process of a choke, they were able to give themselves the Heimlich maneuver, unchoke, and win in overtime against Astralis. Now, sure, it's only a best-of-one win, but beating Astralis in any situation takes a lot. They're such a good team. They're clearly the best team in the world. So, yes, a lot looks very good for Liquid right now. Also, in terms of just form, they have some of the most accomplished players here at the major. They have Twists and Naf that are both in that top 10 quite comfortably. A real duo. Twists in particular has had some incredible moments, but let's not forget Naf. Naf was the one who won them that overtime when he decided to just flex pick up the AWP and was able to dominate the Danes. So everything is boding very well for Team Liquid. You look over at Hellraisers, Issa has been their best player at the tournament. He's 10th out of the top 10 in terms of rankings, but then you have to go down some to even find Woxic, and the rest of Hellraisers are right down there at the bottom. It's just not enough. It's not enough firepower. They can't go head-to-head on paper with this team, and it gets worse because Hellraiser's permanent ban, like a lot of teams, is Nuke. That's not going to help them here. Team Liquid don't like to play it, won't play it. They have this shared map pool. The best map in terms of win rate is Cash for Hellraisers. They have about a 70% win rate on that over the last 3 months. Liquid have a 100% win rate on it. Even if Hellraisers can get them onto Dust 2, which is 50-50 for Team Liquid, I still think they would win it. But even if Hellraisers could steal it, then the next map that's likely to come up, even if it heavily favored Hellraisers, would be Overpass. Team Liquid will dominate that. They got like a 75-72% win rate on it. So for me, this is just a clear-cut one. I don't even see this going to 3 maps. I think this will be a 2-0. I think Team Liquid are on collision course to meet whoever wins out of Astralis versus FaZe, which is the next series we'll talk about. And what a shame that this classic game with so much history, so many storylines, comes up in the quarterfinal. I think, sure, lots to talk about with all the other matches, but how can you not look at this game of death shit we got going on down here? Let's talk again anecdotally rather than numbers. You've got FaZe that are going through internal issues. I don't think this is any secret. Lots of rumors going around that roster changes might be incoming if they don't win this major. Who's going to go? Who's going to stay? Nobody knows. Talks of Carrigan being usurped. Talks of Olaf leaving. Talks of Rain being kicked. It's crazy out there on the rumor mill. And things look real bad for Carrigan because after they went 0 for 2, according to all the interviews, according to just watching the matches themselves, Nico has started calling. This is like the power moves he's pulled when he's been in mouse sports before. And of course, they did win. They had easier games, sure, but they did what they had to do to get to this stage and win 3-2. Now, when you cut your IGL off at the knees like that, I don't know how motivated he is to continue. Carrigan's used to it by now, but he's going to be getting PTSD flashbacks of what happened to him in Astralis. And it's important because that's who they're playing. Carrigan is the master of doing a number on Astralis. MSL has done it recently at DreamHack Stockholm. You can back Carrigan to be able to do it as well. The two Danish in-game leaders seem to be very good at figuring out some of their colleagues. And think back to that 3-0 they had over Astralis at IEM Sydney. FaZe came out without even dropping a map, which nobody believed was possible. Everyone had Astralis to win that one. Sure, it was the closest 3-0 in CSGO history, but it was a 3-0 nonetheless. Now, since then, Astralis have 2-0'd them twice as they've hit this imperious run of form. But Carrigan understands the game, understands his old team. I think having this friction here and kind of taking Carrigan out of things is very, very bad for FaZe. It doesn't bode well. Now, let's talk about maps. Let's talk about numbers. Astralis' map pool remains the best in the business. They got a 100% win rate on Nuke from 8 matches played. FaZe are going to continue to ban that. They absolutely would have to here anyway because you would just be giving Astralis a free map. Hands down the best Nuke team in the world. FaZe have been favoring Mirage, Cash, and Dust 2 in that order at this major. So it seems impossible to dodge Astralis on maps they're more than capable of giving you an absolute pounding on. Mirage seems to be FaZe's best hope of taking a map because Astralis have lost to Nip here at the major in that epic multiple overtime game, which probably is the best game of the tournament. And they have dropped the map to Tai Lu and North at DreamHack Stockholm, the tournament just prior to the major. So there are things to work with there. I don't think Nico's the kind of guy to sit down and watch demos to come up with his strats and tactics, though. So any of the mistakes, they're going to be lodged firmly in Carrigan's brain. Are they going to be delivered to the rest of the team? Who knows? It just seems a real mess right now. Regardless, I can't see Astralis dropping any map here. Maybe Mirage if they elect to play it. I think they'll feel confident. They've been growing into this tournament. They didn't look great in week 1. The Team Liquid game, once it goes to OT, it's a coin toss. What nobody's talking about coming out of that game is the amazing comeback by Astralis to even take it to overtime, which sure they lost, but the guts and determination, they're not going to lie down, especially not now it's the best of 3s. And basically, barring FaZe becoming Voltron, I think this is going to be depressingly one-sided and probably spell the end of the FaZe lineup. So definitely got Astralis for this one. Anyway, those are my thoughts about the quarterfinals. I hope that's given you some insight into what I think is going on. And again, if you do want to bet on the major games, make sure you do it over at rivalry.gg/RLS to support the channel. And of course, to do it in a responsible and ethical environment. We're going to end the video there. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.